Dr. Thessaly had been a medical professional for 216 years. She had treated plasma burns on asteroid miners, reattached limbs for soldiers who had misplaced them in unfortunate airlock incidents, and once successfully removed a live grenade from a patient's digestive tract without asking how it got there because some questions simply did not need answers. Nothing in those 2 centuries had prepared her for the file currently displayed on her floating diagnostic screen. She sat in examination room 7, her 4 violet eyes arranged in vertical pairs, all of them blinking in sequence as she processed what she was reading. The harsh clinical lighting hummed overhead, casting sterile white reflections across the specimen jars lining the shelves. Her translucent lavender skin, usually a calm blue glow indicating professional composure, had begun shifting toward an uncertain yellow. The file header read, Patient intake form, routine checkup. The species designation read, Unclassified. Thessaly's 2 arms remained frozen at her sides. Her thin, prehensile tail, usually swaying gently behind her, had gone completely still, its luminescent bulb flickering like a dying star. She refreshed the screen. The designation remained unchanged. That cannot be correct, she murmured, her small slit-like mouth barely moving. Her delicate antennae, which curved backward from her elongated skull, twitched once and then flattened against her head in the universal Valorian expression of something is deeply wrong here. She scrolled down to the medical history section. The first entry read, Patient survived vacuum exposure for 4 minutes without protective equipment. No lasting damage reported. Patient described experience as refreshing. Thessaly's bioluminescence shifted from yellow to a pale orange. The vascular patterns beneath her translucent skin pulsed visibly faster. The second entry read, Patient consumed substance later identified as industrial solvent. Patient reported slight tingling. Recommended follow-up. None required. Her tail curled defensively around the leg of her chair. The third entry read, Patient's skeletal structure shows evidence of 17 separate fractures, all fully healed. Patient cannot recall specific incidents. Suggested timeline. Early childhood. Early childhood, Thessaly repeated aloud, her voice flat. She had seen crystalline warriors shatter their forms and reform over decades. This patient had apparently pulverized her own skeleton before reaching adolescence and simply continued existing. She scrolled further. Entry 12. Patient exposed to radiation levels exceeding safety thresholds by factor of 6. Patient complained of mild sunburn. Entry 19. Patient's blood sample exhibited properties inconsistent with known biology. Sample attempted to coagulate while being observed. Laboratory equipment malfunctioned. Sample was disposed of as precautionary measure. Note: disposal unit also malfunctioned. Entry 23. Patient fell from significant height. Patient walked away. Recommended treatment: none. Patient refused follow-up. Patient stated she was fine and had things to do. Thessaly's glow had progressed to a deep amber, the color of a sunset on a dying world. Her antennae were pressed so flat against her skull they had nearly disappeared into her translucent skin. She reached the end of page 1. There were 46 more pages. Her tail uncurled from the chair leg only to immediately wrap around her own ankle in what her therapist would later describe as a self-soothing response to catastrophic information intake. She forced herself to continue. Entry 31. Patient's cellular regeneration rate measured at 300% above baseline. Baseline for what species remains unclear. Classification: pending. Note: classification has been pending for 6 standard years. Entry 34. Patient's immune system detected and neutralized experimental pathogen within 4 hours. Pathogen was designed to be undetectable. Patient reported feeling a little tired. Entry 40. Patient's body temperature fluctuated between ranges that should indicate hypothermia and ranges that should indicate fatal fever within single 20-minute observation period. Patient remained conscious and conversational throughout. Patient asked if the facility had vending machines. Thessaly stood up from her chair so abruptly that she knocked over a specimen jar. It shattered against the sterile white floor, scattering preserved tissue samples across the tiles. She did not look down. She could not look away from the screen. Her bioluminescence had achieved a color she had not produced since her residency 3 decades ago, a vivid crimson that pulsed in waves across her translucent form. The blue vascular patterns beneath her skin had begun to glow independently, creating an effect that made her look like a medical emergency in progress. Entry 44. Patient's neurological scan returned results that do not correspond to any known cognitive architecture. Scanner may have malfunctioned. Replacement scanner returned identical results. Second replacement scanner caught fire. Patient apologized and offered to pay for damages. Offer was declined. Entry 45. Patient's DNA analysis incomplete. Analysis software encountered recursive loop. Technician reported feeling watched during procedure. Technician has requested transfer to different department. Entry 46. Refer to incident report. Page 47. Thessaly did not turn to page 47. She was not emotionally prepared for page 47. She was not certain she would ever be emotionally prepared for page 47. Her tail had released her ankle and was now pointing rigidly toward the door like a compass indicating the direction she should flee. The door chimed. "Dr. Thessaly?" A cheerful voice called from the corridor. "Someone said you needed me for a checkup. I brought snacks in case there's a wait. Is there usually a wait?" "I've never actually been here before." "Well, I've been here, but I don't remember most of it, which I guess is probably in my file somewhere." Thessaly's four eyes all focused on the door simultaneously. Her antennae rose slightly from her skull in what her species recognized as the posture of prey detecting an approaching predator. The door slid open. The human woman who entered examination room 7 was not physically remarkable. She stood at average height, with unremarkable coloring, wearing standard civilian clothing. She carried a small bag that presumably contained the mentioned snacks. She looked around the room with the casual curiosity of someone who had never once considered that the universe might find her terrifying. "Oh, neat," Ivory said, looking at the shattered specimen jar on the floor. "Is that supposed to be there? I can clean it up if you want. I'm pretty good at cleaning things. One time I cleaned an entire cargo bay after this thing happened with some fermentation tanks. And honestly, it's kind of a funny story, but it took me like 9 hours, and I think some of the smell is still in my hair." Thessaly's mouth opened. No sound emerged. "You're really pretty," Ivory continued, apparently unbothered by the lack of response. "I like the glowing thing. Is that a mood thing? Because right now you're kind of a red color, and I don't know what that means. But it's very festive, like a holiday. Do you have holidays? Sorry, is that a weird question? People tell me I ask weird questions sometimes." "Please," Thessaly managed, her voice emerging as a croak. "Please sit down." "Sure." Ivory sat on the padded examination table. It creaked under her weight in a way that examination tables should not creak, because examination tables were designed to support species 3 times their mass without complaint. Thessaly looked at the table. She looked at Ivory. She looked at her screen, where 47 pages of medical impossibilities waited patiently for her continued attention. "I have questions," Thessaly said. "Oh, good," Ivory replied, pulling a wrapped food item from her bag. "I love questions. Do you want a snack? It's some kind of grain bar thing. I found them in a storage unit that I don't think anyone was using. They're pretty good, only a little expired. I do not want a snack." "Okay, but just so you know, the offer stands." Thessaly approached the examination table slowly, her 2 arms held carefully at her sides, her tail stretched out behind her for balance. She moved the way one might approach an unstable explosive, which, according to the file, the patient had also survived direct contact with. "Your medical history," she began. "Oh, yeah. It's kinda long, isn't it?" Ivory took a bite of her grain bar. "I think they started keeping track after the 3rd time I showed up here. Or maybe the 4th. There was a period where I came in a lot because I kept forgetting which plants on the station were decorative and which ones were poisonous. And honestly, you'd think they'd label them better. But anyway, most of them were fine. Most of them were." Thessaly stopped. She consulted her screen. Entry 7. Patient consumed unidentified botanical matter from recreation deck. Species analysis revealed high toxicity to all known carbon-based life forms. Patient reported earthy flavor and slight numbness. Patient recovered without treatment. Fine. I mean, there was the purple one that made my vision go weird for a few days, but that sorted itself out. Thessaly's bioluminescence achieved a new shade of crimson, darker than before, approaching the color of arterial spray. I need to ask you about something in your file, she said, forcing her voice to remain level. Page 47. There is a reference to an incident. Ivory's face scrunched in thought. She chewed her grain bar contemplatively. A crumb fell onto the examination table, and the table made another noise. A small groan of protest that table should not make. Page 47, she repeated. Is that the one with the reactor, or the one with the ambassador's pet? Or the one where I got stuck in the ventilation system for a day and a half? Honestly, the ventilation one was mostly boring. I just couldn't find the way out. Very bad signage in there. Thessaly stared at her. Wait, Ivory said. Is page 47 the thing with the quarantine? Because that really wasn't my fault. I didn't know that door was sealed for a reason. They should put signs on those doors. Or locks. Or both. Actually, they did put locks after that. So, I guess problem solved. Thessaly's antennae had flattened so completely against her skull that they had begun to ache from the pressure. Which incident? She said slowly. Are you referring to? Ivory considered this. She took another bite of her grain bar. She looked up at the ceiling as if the answer might be written there. Oh, which one? She said finally. That's a good question. I've lost track. There might be a list somewhere. Do you want me to try to remember them all? I can probably remember most of them. Some of them I only know about because other people told me. Like the one where I apparently walked through a door that was supposed to be magnetically sealed. But I don't remember that at all. I just remember everyone looking at me funny afterward. Thessaly's tail had begun to vibrate. A stress response she had not experienced since her final examinations 2 centuries ago. Walked through, she repeated. I mean, I opened it first. It's not like I phased through it or anything. Ivory paused. Although there was that one time in the cargo section where I'm pretty sure I was on one side of a wall and then I was on the other side of the wall and I don't really remember how that happened. But I was really tired that day, so maybe I just forgot walking around. You forgot walking around a wall. I forget a lot of things. I have a very busy life. Ivory finished her grain bar and crumpled the wrapper. So what kind of checkup is this? Is it a blood thing? Because the last few times they tried to take my blood, the equipment got weird. But I'm happy to try again if you have backup equipment. Maba. Thessaly looked at her screen. Entry 19 stared back at her. Sample attempted to coagulate while being observed. We will not be taking blood today, she said. Oh good. It's kind of a hassle anyway. So what are we doing? Thessaly had no idea what they were doing. Thessaly had been a medical professional for 216 years, and she had never once encountered a patient whose file contained the phrase classification pending for 6 consecutive years. Her tail had stopped vibrating and had instead wrapped itself around her own waist in what she dimly recognized as a protective posture. I need to consult with a colleague, she said. Sure, take your time. I brought more snacks. Ivory reached into her bag and produced another grain bar. Do you want me to wait here? I can wait here. I'm very patient. One time I waited in a shuttle for 12 hours because I thought it was about to leave. But actually it was decommissioned. Very comfortable seats though. Thessaly backed toward the door. Her 4 violet eyes remained fixed on the human woman sitting cheerfully on the groaning examination table, eating snacks of questionable expiration date, apparently unaware that her mere existence raised questions that the galactic medical establishment was not equipped to answer. Do not, Thessaly said, touch anything. Okay. Thessaly's hand found the door control. She pressed it. The door slid open behind her. Actually, Ivory said, while you're gone, is it okay if I look at those specimen jars? Some of them have really interesting colors. Do not touch the specimen jars. Got it. What about the screens? Do not touch the screens. The chairs? Thessaly's bioluminescence flickered between crimson and a color she could not name, something beyond the normal spectrum of her emotional responses, something her body had apparently invented specifically for this moment. Stay, she said, exactly where you are. You got it, Doc. Thessaly stepped through the door. It slid closed behind her. She stood in the corridor, her translucent lavender form pulsing with chaotic light, her antennae pressed flat, her tail wrapped around herself like armor. From inside the room, she heard humming. The patient was humming. Thessaly turned and walked very quickly toward the medical records archive, because she needed to see page 47 with her own four eyes before she involved anyone else in whatever this was. She needed to know exactly what she was dealing with. She had a terrible suspicion she was not going to like the answer. The medical records archive was a cathedral of data, towering columns of soft blue light stretching toward a ceiling lost in shadow. Narrow walkways threaded between the servers like veins through a massive organ, and the hushed atmosphere carried the faint hum of a trillion stored medical histories. Dr. Thessaly stood before Terminal 9, her four violet eyes scanning page 47 with the intensity of someone reading their own autopsy report. Her bioluminescence had settled into a steady amber, the color of controlled panic. The incident report was 3 paragraphs long. By the end of the first paragraph, her antennae had pressed flat. By the end of the second, her tail had wrapped around her leg. By the end of the third, she had to sit down on the floor because her legs had simply stopped cooperating with the concept of standing. Patient entered restricted laboratory during unscheduled maintenance period. Patient was exposed to experimental compound 77X, which was designed to dissolve organic matter at the molecular level. Compound was in gaseous form. Patient inhaled significant quantity. Patient sneezed twice. Patient asked if the lab had tissues. Patient was unharmed. Compound 77X has been discontinued. Research team has requested reassignment. Thessaly sat on the cold floor of the archive, her translucent form casting flickering amber light across the narrow walkway. A compound designed to dissolve organic matter at the molecular level. And this creature had sneezed. Dr. Thessaly? She looked up. Intern Voss stood at the entrance, his younger Valorian features displaying the dim bioluminescence of someone who had not yet experienced enough horror to glow brightly. His four violet eyes blinked in sequence as he observed his superior sitting on the floor in a posture of existential defeat. Are you all right? The patient in examination room 7 sent me to find you. She wanted me to tell you that she accidentally touched one of the specimen jars, but she put everything back, and she's pretty sure it's fine. Thessaly's glow shifted toward red. She touched the specimen jars. She said only a little bit. She also asked if we have a cafeteria because she finished her snacks. Thessaly rose from the floor with the slow deliberation of someone who had accepted that the universe was fundamentally hostile to her continued sanity. Voss, have you reviewed the patient's file? Not yet. I was going to do it after. Do not review the patient's file. Do not ask questions about that file. And do not under any circumstances allow that patient to leave examination room 7 until I have consulted with senior staff. Is something wrong with the patient? Thessaly laughed. It was not a pleasant laugh. It was the kind of laugh that emerged when the only alternative was screaming. The patient should not exist. The patient's continued existence is an insult to biology, and the patient wants to know if we have a cafeteria. The emergency conference chamber was designed for crises. Oval table, holographic display center, dim amber lighting, soundproofed walls. Today, it hosted 4 senior medical officers, all Valorian, all glowing various shades of distressed yellow and orange as they reviewed the file Dr. Thessaly had distributed. Dr. Meridian, head of xenobiology, had stopped reading at page 12 and had been staring at the wall ever since. His 4 eyes were unfocused, his tail limp against the floor. Dr. Castor, chief of emergency medicine, had made it to page 23 before pushing back from the table and announcing he needed water. He had not returned with water. He had returned with something stronger. Dr. Vance, the department administrator, was reading page 47 for the 3rd time with the expression of someone watching their career evaporate. This cannot be accurate, Vance said finally. These records must be corrupted. I cross-referenced with backup archives. The records are accurate. I also reviewed incident reports filed by 17 different staff members over 6 years. They are consistent. Consistent with what? Consistent with the claim that her neurological scan caused equipment to catch fire? Yes. Meridian finally spoke, his voice distant, his eyes still fixed on the wall. I have studied 472 species in my career. I have documented life forms that exist in plasma states. I have cataloged organisms that reproduce through quantum entanglement. I have never encountered anything in any database, anywhere, that matches what this file describes. So, what is she? Castor asked, taking another drink. I don't know. How can you not know? You're the head of xenobiology. I am aware of my title. I am also aware that this patient's biology does not correspond to any known classification system. The holographic display flickered. A notification appeared. Message from intern Voss. Patient is asking if the examination will take much longer because she has plans later. Thessaly read the message. Her antennae flattened completely. She has plans, she said. Examination room 7 had not changed in the hour since Thessaly had left. The harsh clinical lighting still hummed. The specimen jars still lined the shelves, though 3 of them had been moved to different positions. Ivory sat on the examination table, which had developed a new creak, swinging her legs and humming a tune that none of the Valorian doctors recognized. Oh good, you're back, she said, brightening. And you brought friends! Hi, friends. I'm Ivory. Sorry about the specimen jars. I put them back. Pretty sure they're in the right spots. 4 senior medical officers stood in the doorway, their bioluminescence ranging from anxious yellow to alarmed orange. Thessaly entered first, her 2 arms held carefully at her sides. We are going to conduct some tests, she announced. Great! What kind of tests? Basic diagnostics. Nothing invasive. Cool? Is it going to tickle? The last time someone ran tests on me, things got kind of weird and I ended up in a different room somehow. I never figured out how that happened. Dr. Meridian made a small noise in the back of his throat, the Valorian equivalent of a whimper. The first test was a simple biometric scan. Thessaly activated the floating diagnostic screen and directed it toward the patient. The screen flickered. Huh, Ivory said. It's doing the thing. What thing? The flickering thing. They always do that around me. I think I'm staticky or something. The screen flickered again, more violently. Then it displayed results. Thessaly looked at the results. Her bioluminescence shifted to a color she had not produced in 200 years, a deep violet that pulsed in waves across her translucent form. That cannot be correct, she whispered. What does it say? Dr. Vance asked, leaning forward. It says her cellular regeneration rate is currently 412% above baseline. Above baseline for what species? It doesn't specify. The field where species should be listed just says see administrator. I am the administrator. Then perhaps you should see yourself, because I have no explanation for this. Ivory watched them with cheerful curiosity. Is that bad? 400% sounds like a lot. Is it a lot? I've never been good at percentages. It is not possible, Meridian said, his voice strained. No carbon-based life form can sustain that level of cellular activity. The energy requirements alone would. The scanner beeped. A new result appeared. Energy consumption nominal, Thessaly read aloud. Cellular activity self-sustaining. No external energy source detected. That violates thermodynamics. Yes, thermodynamics cannot be violated. And yet, Ivory had pulled out another grain bar. She unwrapped it with the casual ease of someone who had never once considered that her existence might be impossible. Run the blood analysis, Vance ordered. Sir, the file indicates that blood analysis has caused equipment malfunction on every previous attempt. Use the backup equipment. The file indicates that backup equipment has also malfunctioned. Use the backup to the backup. Thessaly approached with a collection device, her 2 arms moving slowly. She located a vein. She prepared the device. She extracted the sample. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the collection device made a noise. It was not a mechanical noise. It was a noise that sounded almost like a sigh. There it goes, Ivory said. The sample inside the device began to move. Not flow. Move. It shifted within the container like something alive, pressing against the walls, testing the seal. It's doing the thing, Thessaly reported, her voice flat. What thing? Vance demanded. The thing the file warned us about. The thing where it moves. Blood does not move. This blood moves. The collection device emitted another noise, this time closer to a whine. The sample pressed harder against the seal. The device began to vibrate. Thessaly set it down on the examination table very quickly and backed away. I'd step back if I were you, Ivory advised. This is usually when it gets dramatic. The device shattered. The blood sample did not spill. It sat on the examination table in a small puddle, perfectly still, as if waiting. Dr. Meridian fainted. His Valorian body hit the floor with a soft thump, his bioluminescence flickering to standby mode. Oh no, Ivory said, looking genuinely concerned. Is he okay? That happens sometimes. Not the fainting thing specifically, but people having reactions. I'm sorry. I probably should have warned you more. Thessaly stood frozen, her four eyes fixed on the blood sample that was now very slowly beginning to move across the examination table in the direction of its owner. What? She managed. It does that. It comes back. I don't really understand why. It's kind of sweet, actually, in a weird way. The sample reached the edge of the table nearest to Ivory. It paused there, quivering slightly. Can I? Ivory asked, gesturing to it. No one answered. No one could answer. Dr. Vance had pressed himself against the wall. Dr. Castor was on his hands and knees looking for his dropped container. Thessaly's tail had wrapped around her own torso twice. Ivory touched the sample. It absorbed into her skin instantly, leaving no trace. There we go. All better. So, are we done with tests? Because I really do have plans later and I don't want to be rude, but I've been here a while. Thessaly's bioluminescence achieved a color that would later be described in her medical file as unprecedented. What are you? She whispered. Ivory blinked. What do you mean? Your species. Your classification. What are you? Oh, I'm human. Silence. Complete, absolute silence. Somewhere in the distance, a ventilation system hummed. Dr. Meridian remained unconscious on the floor. Dr. Castor had stopped searching for his container and was simply kneeling, staring at nothing. Human. Vance repeated from his position against the wall. Yeah. You know, human. From Earth. There's a lot of us. There are others like you. I mean, not exactly like me. Everyone's different. But yeah, humans. We're pretty common, actually. One of the more numerous species in this sector. Last I heard. Thessaly thought about the file. 47 pages. 6 years of pending classification. 17 staff members traumatized. 3 scanners destroyed. 1 technician relocated to a farming moon. Humans, she said. Yep. And this is normal. For humans. Ivory considered this. She tilted her head, her expression thoughtful. I mean, some of it's maybe a little unusual. Like the thing with the compound that was supposed to dissolve me, that was probably not typical. And the falling from really high up thing, most people don't do that on purpose. But the general stuff? Yeah, pretty normal. Humans are pretty resilient. We had to be. Our planet was trying to kill us for a long time. Your planet was trying to kill you. Oh yeah. Natural disasters, predators, diseases, weather, poisonous plants, venomous animals, the whole thing. We just kind of adapted, kept going. Stubbornness, mostly. We're very stubborn. Dr. Meridian, who had regained consciousness on the floor, made another small noise. It might have been a sob. So we're fine, Ivory continued. I mean, I'm fine. Is there paperwork or something? Because I really do need to go. I'm supposed to meet someone in the recreation deck, and I don't want to be late. They get worried when I'm late. Last time I was late, they sent a search party, and it got kind of embarrassing. Thessaly looked at her colleagues. Vance had not moved from the wall. Castor had given up entirely and was sitting on the floor. Meridian was still down there with him, showing no signs of intending to get up ever again. There will be no further tests, Thessaly said. Oh, good. So I can go? You can go. Ivory hopped off the examination table. It groaned in relief, the creak somehow sounding grateful. Thanks, Doc. This was fun. Sorry about your friend. She gestured to Meridian. And the specimen jars. And the blood thing. That always freaks people out. I should probably wear a warning sign or something. Anyway, nice meeting you all. Good luck with the medical stuff. You're doing great work. Affa. She walked to the door. It slid open. She walked through it, humming the same unrecognizable tune. The door slid closed behind her. Thessaly stood in examination room 7, surrounded by shattered equipment, colleagues in various states of consciousness, and the lingering impossibility of what she had just witnessed. Her tail slowly unwound from her torso. I am going to update her file, she announced to no one in particular. To what? Vance asked weakly from against the wall. Thessaly thought about it. She thought about 47 pages of medical impossibilities. She thought about blood that returned to its owner. She thought about a species that had evolved on a planet that was trying to kill them and had simply refused to die. Species classification, she said finally. Human. Subcategory. Localized anomaly. Treatment recommendation. None required. Notes. Patient is fine. Patient has always been fine. Patient will presumably continue to be fine regardless of any external factors. Do not run tests. Do not attempt to understand. Simply accept and move forward. She paused. Also, update the vending machines. She asked about vending machines. We should probably have vending machines and maybe warning signs. On the floor, Dr. Meridian began to laugh. It was not a healthy laugh. It was the laugh of someone whose entire understanding of biology had just been gently dismantled by a woman eating expired grain bars who apologized for the inconvenience of her own impossible existence. Dr. Castor joined him a moment later, the two of them sitting on the sterile floor of examination room 7, laughing at nothing and everything. Thessaly watched them. Her bioluminescence slowly, very slowly, began to shift back toward blue. It was not acceptance, exactly, but it was a start.